Right, next, artificial intelligence in recent years has attracted massive investment from big-name companies such as Google and Facebook. So in this session, we have invited Ms. Holly Harrington, the quarterback of program and brand development from Taiwan Startup Stadium, and Mr. ChihHan Yu, the CEO and co-founder of Appier, to talk about this very hot topic, building a better world with artificial intelligence. Let's welcome Ms. Holly Harrington and Mr. ChihHan Yu.
Good morning. My name's Holly Harrington, and I'm with Taiwan Startup Stadium, which is a government-backed project under the National Development Council of Taiwan. Our focus is internationalizing Taiwan's startup ecosystem. We do that through a lot of different ways, through programs, training startups in business skills and other skills they need to reach international markets, as well as taking them abroad, which is actually where a lot of our team is today. We have 8 startups currently in Hong Kong right now for RISE conference, and then we have a lot of startups here as well at COMPUTEX and InnoVEX. So this morning, the topic that we're going to be talking about is AI. And I just want to tell you a little bit about our speaker who is going to be joining us, Mr. ChihHan Yu from Appier. So let me give you a little bit about his background. So ChihHan began Appier, which is a technology company that makes it easier for businesses to use AI to grow and succeed in cross-screen environments. And under his leadership, it's grown from a 5-person startup to a rapidly growing company that actually has locations around the world and customers in many different markets. He's authored dozens of research articles in the field of artificial intelligence, as well as robotics and machine learning. He's got 2 US patents. He also obtained his doctoral degree from Harvard, which is quite impressive, I think. And has also worked on robotic systems for polio, among other really exciting topics. But before we actually get to our fireside chat, we're going to allow ChihHan to come up here and tell you a little bit about his background himself. So let's welcome ChihHan Yu.
Thank you, Holly.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. I think just a 5-slide, a very short introduction of my history and why I get to in AI. So kick off the topic. I promise it will be long, just 3 or 5 minutes. A little background. So what is AI? Maybe we'll just open up with this topic. AI is just a way for machine to be able to act or think like a human or like animals. And so and sometimes it can also do something even beyond human being can do. For example, recent AlphaGo is actually superhuman behavior. And AI is very good at finding the multiple factor and finding a pattern of solving a complex problem when you can specify goals or your objective very clearly. And on the other hand, AI is not very good at unconstrained problems. For example, try to be creative, or try to think a problem you solve yourself, or be multifunctional like a human being that we can speak very well, we can also process information well. You can think it's more like an expert or specialist that can do one thing with clear objectives very well. A little bit of history of my background in AI. So basically, I started getting very interested in AI when I took a class at National Taiwan University. The class name is called pattern recognition. Basically, you build a face recognition. Nowadays, face recognition is everywhere. But back in 1999, face recognition was a pretty cool application. I immediately get very fascinated at how the AI can actually through some algorithm running, we can actually make computer being able to recognize faces and also different faces. And I got so interested in that. Even after that, I served in military. Even during the military, when I have time, actually I always have a stack of machine learning or computer vision papers reading about how you can make a machine to think like human being. And I was luckily went to Stanford University back in early 2000. Stanford at Silicon Valley was just after the bubble, so Silicon Valley is a little bit more pessimistic. But inside academia, like Stanford University, we get a lot of great professors and great researchers actually gather around in Stanford AI Lab. And so we were able to get a very best talents like Andrew Ng, who now is chief scientist of Baidu, and then Solo, one of the very founding member of the deep learning field. And we work a lot in how to make robots to be able to think and learn like a human being. One more famous project is to make a robotic dog have 4 legs. First, like a human being, learn to balance, and then eventually be able to negotiate actually obstacle like these stages. And this actually is, when you think like human being, when I walk and being able to navigate through obstacle, it's a very easy task. But actually, it's also going through the evolution and also a lot of learning process when we were in infancy. Being able to make machine be able to recognize obstacles and also walk and act like a human being is actually not an easy problem. And we were able to make like robotic dog, helicopter, like eventually self-driving car be able to do so. Then later I went on to do multi-agent research, which is make a lot of molecular, cellular, or small independent agent being able to interact with each other that eventually collaborate to achieve a goal. And that's actually one is top-down approach, one is bottom-up approach. These are the 2 very significant ways how people back into early 2000 to think about AI. Because as a human agents, we have our brain to control the macro action, but we also have a cell and also our nerves that doing the local interaction that emerge global sensible behaviors. So that's a bit of my background. So I built a lot of robots, in summary, and none of robots on the commercial market. Even today, I come to work, I still drive myself, even we built a self-driving car in 2004. So we decided to move on to make AI have more impactful, and by founding Appier. And previously, our company was COMPUTEX, which is doing gaming AI. But take an AI to real-world application is very, very long journey. Actually took us 6 years to get to here. Initially, we were doing AI for games. Try to model the because MMORPG was very popular. How do we model this kind of multi-agent interaction in the gaming environments that replicate human being interactions? That was our first product. But it turned out in games, AI wasn't the most focused on component. The fun and also reward system and also interaction with the real human being is what really matters. And so then we move on to focus on. All the dots are the products we have launched before the final Appier platform. We have launched 8 different products. First 3 products in the game AI for games, and the next 6 is all enterprise AI. So then we start working on how to help enterprise to better utilize the data. For example, marketing data, and then their user payment data. And so we have pivoted a lot of different ideas. Eventually, we found a big opportunity of bridging the gap across all the devices. Because in 2012 and around 2010, there's a big opportunity when there are a lot of new devices emerge. We start having the iPhone start penetrating in a lot of different markets. Then smartphone penetration become high. Then iPad, smart TV, etc. Then human being has switched from one single device focus then multi-device focus. So that makes it very hard for enterprise or company to find a users or model a user across. So we build an underlying structure of a machine graph, how people use different machine, and also how people interact with different machine in an anonymous way, such that we can do better marketing, do better data intelligence and analytics. So that's a long history, but a lot of value lessons fall into, for AI product is fall into, for example, it's very hard for the enterprise to pay and to see immediate benefit of an AI product. That's one thing that we have failed many times. Sometimes our AI algorithm only solve very small problem in a company, so the market size is too small. Sometimes it's too early for one concept, especially in Asia's enterprise. Sometimes a bit too late and too competitive to use AI to solve any problem in that particular field. So there actually is not, even it is very hard fields and also emerge into a very popular topic. I'm personally never imagining one day AI will become a popular word, because when I was in school and when people talk, oh, you're from AI lab, that means that you are very focused on in research and academia. You are not thinking about going to industry. That was like early 2000. And what we really focus on is everyday AI. It's actually a dramatic shift of a computational paradigms nowadays. Now the server and the bandwidth and all the storage and computations become much cheaper now. So a lot of, in the past, and unable to achieve AI tasks now become possible. For example, in the past, for the robot to interact in the real time, to do that kind of real-time computation, that wasn't able to be achieved. A lot of times doing offline and only play on the playback behavior in real time. And now because the computation become cheaper, communication become cheaper, a lot of things make it possible for AI to push the application. So it's actually the right time to do AI. And not only in the field enterprise data that we focus on, a lot of the time like a self-driving car in the medical domains, and pretty much you can sync a lot of your daily job that's related to abundance of data, abundance of decision to make, or a lot of automation not to be required can be actually powered by AI. So we would envision with the computation become cheaper and cheaper, and AI will become even more popular in the next 10 years. You can see AI Plus can be everywhere. For example, in medical, we can power by AI with much more accurate diagnosis systems. And in enterprise, you can have AI like our company do to have much more precise decision making in marketing, in business intelligence, and a lot of different fields. And also in another top domain, for example, autonomous driving, you can assist human beings to be more accurate in driving. So AI Plus, I think AI Plus, the existing traditional field will be emerging to the next trend of the AI. Yeah, thank you.
So thank you, ChihHan, for your talk.
Thank you.
So we're going to have a quick discussion, and then after a little while, we'll also be taking questions from our audience as well. But just to get started, when you first started out in AI, sort of as you mentioned, this wasn't really a popular field. Probably people didn't understand what you're doing. What caused you to really get interested in it in the very beginning? What was like what was the moment where you started to fall in love with AI?
I think that's a very good question. I think that the first ever AI algorithm I built was to do, as I previously mentioned, it's a face recognition. I immediately found that with certain representation of the faces into a mathematical format, that machine can actually interpret and also think like human being. I think that was very amazing. It's different from all the other computer fields. I wouldn't say other computer fields was not cool because AI is so cool to me, and then I immediately got immersed myself in AI, and then start thinking how we can make a machine smarter and smarter, and how it can solve more and more complex problems. And a lot of time when I was studying AI, we will try to overcome is how can you do computational feasibly and make the machine to become smart? For example, when we build a small little dog, we were always thinking how can we simulate the real little dog robot in computer for it to learn in simulation than learning in real world. Because learning in the real world wasn't computationally feasible.
So you mentioned little dog, right? So a lot of people, the other one, the big one is called Big Dog,
Big Dog,
is that
yes.
right? So a lot of people have seen the videos, especially coming out of MIT, and these giant robots that people keep kicking over and they just keep getting up. So Little Dog, though, was kind of the first among those robots, right? So what was it like to work on Little Dog?
Yeah, so the Little Dog is a brother of Big Dog. So basically, when the project just emerged, we just start with a smaller version of a Big Dog robot. And I think that was back in 2003 that I had fortunate to collaborate with Boston Dynamics, one of the leading robotics company. And I still remember when I went into the office of Boston Dynamics, everybody is so dedicated to create leg robot. Yeah. And I see, because back then AI wasn't so popular, and so a lot of people are very focused on solving the problems that even and also dedicated to the research. And to me, and when I was like 23, 24, and start working the project, a lot of my friends were working on a very cool product. Oh, I'm create a Web 2.0 application. I'm working on database, and I am interning in Google. But I got a dog. I am pretty much every day just look at the ground, a little dog. And instead of sitting, I am pretty much crawling on the ground with the dog for during my days in Stanford AI Lab. But it was fun because I always was able to make the dog first learn to balance and understand, then eventually learn to walk. And finally, we were able to, after 2 years of effort, we were able to make a dog to automatically balance itself and also climb across very difficult terrains, like different conditions. These kind of steps become easy. And then gradually, after 7 or 8 years effort, that's become the big dog video that you have seen. So we were just persistently using to try to tackle a problem, probably people wouldn't care too much back then. But that kind of a determination, also persistency, that make a lot of nowadays cool robotics or AI application possible.
So you mentioned at that time, other people are working on things people can understand, and you're playing with a dog. How did you explain that to friends and family? Because I know in Taiwan, family support and friend support, it's very important. People need to understand what you're doing. How did people react, or did you tell them?
It was very hard to explain.
Okay.
Yeah, because like you can imagine, like my parents they send their kids to Stanford and study, but you are working on a dog. But how can you? What's the problem that you are trying to solve? I want to try to make a dog to learn like a real dog. But what's the point? We have a real dog. Why you want a robotic dog to learn like a real dog? And so that was hard. But actually, the appreciation of this, I would say, like 10 years ago, because 10 to 15 years, because machine learning community has a relatively less interaction with industry. So a lot of time when we build things, we didn't care about how to apply to real world back then. But the thing is, and the communication and how to represent the problem become hard. But you wouldn't imagine, actually, the algorithm used in little dogs is very similar to a lot of algorithms you can use in business decision making, like the software we create nowadays at Appier. And actually, just in abstract level, they are very similar. They are just making the machine being able to make the real-time fast and accurate decision by dealing with more the higher dimensional data. So it actually was hard, but actually they would just let me do whatever I like to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned in your presentation about everyday AI. You mentioned some real-world applications that we are already seeing today. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? What kind of AI are we using in our everyday lives now?
Yeah. So nowadays, actually, we live in an environment that we have a lot of information. More information than our human brain can process. Like I think as a typical Taiwanese or Asian audience, that the first day when you wake up in the morning, you open up your social apps. Now your friends probably is very good at creating content, but which one is relevant to you? So AI is, and for example, and Facebook has a real-time algorithm just mining all your preference, and also what you like to read. So if you bring the signal to the noise ratio, with a signal is much higher, and then what's the noise to you is actually less. And in the real world business environments, you can imagine that a lot of different factors now is affecting business. Not only the traditional offline factor, but also some of the online audience response, etc., can also potentially impact the business of an online transaction, even offline transaction. But how can we process that much information? And AI can come to work to help us to mine what's relevant or what is not relevant, and what is correct or what is not correct. Another field I think will be have great potential in Taiwan is automation in factories. So basically, a lot of times, like people are doing repetitive and pattern-oriented work, and while we are very good at manufacturing, at certain points we also need to improve the precision or improve the margins. And so in the robotic space and also AI-based agent can actually perform that kind of repetitive work very well to the extent that can be less error than a normal human being. So I think that's also potentially one very good field for that. And the other day, I just was chatting with my wife, also CEO of Appier, because in the medical domain, she is a medical background in immunology. Because in medical domains, a lot of times, the multiple factors actually trigger a gene or trigger a disease to happen or not happening. And it's simply too hard to do a very long cycle experiments. But with AI, we can actually identify and find a pattern that and also more effectively conduct experiment to find the answer more faster. So you can pretty much think across life sciences, factory automation, business decisions, even the commercial B2C apps. Everywhere, I think will be empowered by AI. And most of the big players like Amazon, Facebook, nowadays, their core business is all empowered by artificial intelligence to drive the real business efficiencies.
Well, let's take a step back, actually, because we've been talking about AI, but there's also big data, machine learning, all of these terms that actually a lot of the media and just general people kind of use to mean the same thing, but they're not really the same, right? Can you tell us a little bit about the differences between big data, machine learning, AI, and all of these different terms?
Yeah, that's true. Because even I sometimes got confused. What you're talking about big data and what you do, and you are doing AI, but actually you are just storing the data. To me, it's also quite confused too. So but actually to back to fundamental and basic, big data simply have data, but it's slightly bigger, right? More larger amount of data. As you can treat that as material of any business decision as the whole process. And machine learning is pretty much define the machine to learn instead of you program the logic. You just use machine to automatically learn the rule and the best decision to make, or the most relevant article to show, and machine be able to learn by itself rather than human tweak the logic. Then AI, you can think as an end product. It's the eventual production and eventual results that represent to you. So you can think big data or big data as a material, and machine learning a process, and AI is the eventual result you see as AI and as a product.
So there's machine learning, but there's also deep learning.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about what deep learning is?
I think deep learning is just a field in machine learning, but it's getting very prominent because it shows significant results in images and search, and then also audio search. And inside our company, we also have done a lot of research inside the deep learning fields, and we have also quite a few experts in that field. Deep learning is a field in machine learning, but generally with a more deeper layer of neural nets. Neural nets originally actually invented already 40 or 50 years ago, but it was dead probably 20 years ago, but revived with people creating more layers of representation, and people find it really powerful when you are unable to find a good feature or factor representation of learning, but you have a lot of machine and a lot of computation power, but you just throw into the neural net, and so the deep neural nets to let the machine to find a factor that represented those data better. So I think deep learning is part of the machine learning big family, but with a deeper and a more computationally layers of representation of the machine learning of the neural nets. It should actually significantly improves. And people who wouldn't believe in neural net nowadays, but in the past, but now study deep learning a lot.
Okay. So actually, let's talk a little bit about Taiwan, and because these days there's a lot of buzz about AI, not just in Taiwan but around the world. But what kind of role do you think that startups and existing industry in Taiwan can play in the AI industry?
I'm from the enterprise point of view, but so I cannot represent the whole Taiwan's view. But Taiwan has been traditionally very strong in hardware manufacturing, and you can think all AI innovation is also triggered by the hardware innovations. But by driving the hardware a little bit slightly higher level, so as to link to the software layer of the AI. I think that's a very important field and to leverage on. And secondly, I feel Taiwan is very connected to a lot of Asian countries. If we are doing some AI-related product, but pushing to a different country, Taiwan can be a very good market to create those products, like what we do. And so both, I think software and hardware integration for AI, and also the pushing the enterprise product in AI across Asia. I think both represent tremendous opportunity for Taiwan. Yeah.
But actually, the AI industry is largely based around Silicon Valley, as well as around MIT. But you chose to set up your company.
I will be against it's around MIT, not around Stanford or Harvard. Sorry, yeah.
Forgot about those rivalries.
Yeah, sorry, just kidding.
But you decided to set up your company in Taiwan, and it's not only because it's your home, right? What were kind of some of the reasons that you've decided to make Taiwan, the base for your company?
Yeah, actually, if we take the AI field as a whole, a lot of Asian university or institute are doing extremely well. Even in Taiwan, we have actually one of the very best data mining team in National Taiwan University, and also Tsinghua University also regularly ranked as a top 10 as a worldwide data mining competitions. We just never know. We just never, media hasn't shown enough and proud of those things happening. And a lot of people when make those Stanford and Harvard or MIT AI possible, a lot of them are Asian too. So we can manage to convince them to focus to move back and also focus on building AI application around Asia. That would represent a tremendous opportunity for those great world-class scientists too. And if we take back, I think in Taiwan, I think one advantage, absolute advantage is talents, and the second is also we have the culture of being more receptive to comments and feedbacks. I think that's one thing that's great about Taiwanese, and then actually it can help if we have a little bit of innovation engine, also DNA. We can make the innovation iterate fast. I wouldn't say why you choose Taiwan, because the software and internet have made the world flat, and great AI scientists can be everywhere, as we see in all the AI conferences. There are a lot of great international risk scholars outside US as well. So I wouldn't say it will be, it's actually a great opportunity for the small country like Taiwan or Israel or even Estonia to create great software company that drive innovation in these fields. I think talents and also the mindset of Taiwanese colleagues, and as well as a connectivity to a lot of Asian market, actually represent a dramatic opportunity, and also dramatic and tremendous resources to start a company like in Taiwan. And also, if we can leverage that to push internationally, I wouldn't say why Taiwan. I would say why not here. So,
well, we are seeing a big surge in innovation in Taiwan, and the startup industry is growing. And you can see here at InnoVEX, there's dozens and dozens of startups that are from Taiwan and also from around the world coming here. But one of the challenges that it seems we have the talent here, but one of the challenges is just capital investment. First of all, Appier, you've been able to raise funds, but how do you think that Taiwan and Taiwanese startups, and even startups that are just based anywhere in Asia, can kind of attract that attention to be able to get the funds in order to build these innovations?
Yeah, I think one of the most important thing is the type of product and the type of technology we create here need to be top-notch, because you only create some apps or service that's only best in Taiwan. That wouldn't attract a lot of capital. Even the venture capital in Taiwan probably wouldn't invest, because what really driving the business in the capital market is they want to invest in the very best company can bring the very best outcomes. And so I think the first one is the most important is to have a very best differentiated technology, not only in Taiwan, not only in Hong Kong, not only in Singapore, but everywhere in the world. I would argue that Taiwanese engineers are very good at creating that. And secondly, also I think we are also seeing the trend that a lot of great Taiwanese startup is moving toward that direction I was mentioning. And then secondly, we also need some transition of venture capital to be more focused on and to help more. Because traditionally we have a tremendous success in hardware business, so a little bit more traditional investor might probably look at the hardware company more, but they are also in the process of transition to internet or AI or AR type of area. Once that transition has been made, I think that can also bring the local investor to look at and invest more in Taiwanese startup. And we also not only hope a lot of great talents, Taiwanese-born talent from US to join startup side, we also very much hope they can join the investment side so as to bring the gap of a capital market and also entrepreneur to leverage, to make the connection of the two. And on the other hand, also to be very have a global sense in terms of expanding your markets to different markets. I think that's very important because Taiwan is actually a very small country, as we know. But the good thing about Taiwan is actually a very good test bed to a lot of different markets, like South Asia, China, even Japan. So once have a successful launch in Taiwan, how to expand to Asia, and to also hit other high growth market. I think that will be very important factor for the investor to invest in a startup in Taiwan. And what I would say, our company has not been focused a lot on getting a capital, but a lot of time we actually try to get a strategic needs. If that actually bring to the as a collaboration relationship with you and your investors.
Okay, so one topic that I wanted to ask you about, because this is something I really care about. In his book, Industries of the Future, Alec Ross talked a little bit about how AI actually has the opportunity, first of all, to change the world in some negative ways, but also some very positive ways, being able to make social change and perhaps solve some of these existing problems that we've had around the world. So what kind of opportunities do you see in AI being able to kind of affect social change throughout the world?
Yeah, there are a couple of examples of cutting-edge research I can take that as an example. Like one of my colleagues, he is currently a professor in my past collaborator. He's currently a professor at Stanford. What he is doing is actually take this decision making of a judge in court, and also correlate with a lot of criminal past record data, and to try to help the judge to make a much better decision. It actually showed that I can actually increase 10 or 15% more of a precision in terms of judge decision if they can adopt that solutions. Well, yeah, that actually is a tremendous social impact. You can imagine the application domain he is making is actually for the judge to decide whether you want to release this person or you want to keep this person. I don't know how to call that in English. To keep the person in jail. You can imagine make that 10% increase in terms of precision actually solve a lot of social problems already. And secondly, another example, what AI can do. That was a small project I did back in 2006. But now it's Internet of Things world, and back then we would call that sensor networks. And the sensor network is a network of sensors that can collect data, but can also have a limited certain computations. Pretty much very similar to Internet of Things that we are talking about nowadays. And but Internet of Things, what it can do, it can actually do optimal energy planning inside the house, inside the factories. And so when to save energy and when to actually pull up the energy level higher. That can actually solve a lot of our environment problem nowadays. Just as a two example, you can think a lot of the time it can help human and also do better decision making or resource planning, or cutting some waste that you probably even noticed.
Just a reminder to our audience, in a couple minutes we'll start taking some questions, and you can do that with the QR code that's here on the screen. So then we'll be able to just take your questions. I'll check them out here. But I still have a few more questions of my own. So there are a lot of myths around AI, and probably the biggest fear that everyone is always talking about, and the media just loves to talk about it, is AI going to take all of our jobs?
I'm pretty sure you certainly will not take over you and mine. I think it still have a very long way to go for AI. You can think AI can be your assistant, but the other day there's one comment saying that then it's taking away your job, your assistant's job. So but actually, you can think AI can be an expert of one domain and assist a human being in all kinds of type of job function. Even, for example, someone's assistant, they can actually help you to assist better. And and what AI is not good at is doing, for example, autonomous planning to set a goal for itself. But human being can be good at that. But I think in 5 years or so, human being will be able, need to develop the capability not only to coordinate human intelligence, but also coordinate AI intelligence to make the best outcome or best decisions. So I wouldn't think it would take away anybody's job, but it would certainly make our job easier and also advance our job level to more strategic thinking and planning.
Right. But we've seen that happen, though, in the past, right? So we moved from agriculture into industry, and then we had the Industrial Revolution, and jobs were eliminated there. And now it's kind of these knowledge workers, right? So there are some industries that, in real estate and law and some of these other professions where they actually have a bit more risk, I guess, in their jobs being a little less important as they once were. Is there anything that knowledge workers right now, so people who aren't in the computer industry, they're not doing engineering, but other types of knowledge workers that they can do to kind of be ready for the AI sort of revolution? Anything that will help them to keep their own importance and relevance in their fields?
Yeah, I think it's most important thing to know is to know what machine can do, what machine cannot do. Really to be able to in charge of the machine and the software, and to know what's the limitation and also your own limitations. I think that will fundamentally to make us much a better owner or manager of the of AIs. And for the industrial revolution point of view, and because that will also drive the human, for example, initially it might be laborers doing the farming, but if it's a machine, then the labor become manager, but can actually potentially manage a bigger farm or do other more planning type of things, and the machine can actually do things more efficiently. We can also think that in AI revolution too. The job level and the amount of job that human being can do become more. And so the productivity become higher, so also potentially also professional upgrades for people who can actually manage AI software well.
So I guess we probably, at least in our lifetimes, we're not going to see robots take over the world as we see in
certainly
Hollywood.
wouldn't expect any robot will submit application to apply for a job in our company.
Okay. Okay. So I want to ask you a few of the questions that we're getting from our audience. Sure. So one of them is, so you talked about the 8 pivots in your company. Actually, I took a photo of that slide because it's actually very educational, because a lot of startups don't like to pivot. They want to keep doing the same thing, but you've gone through a lot of changes to get to the success that you've now got within your company. So the question from our audience, what was the most challenging thing during that period of changing over 8 times? What was the most difficult portion of your work?
Yeah, I think the most difficult part is definitely mental. So mentally, they need to be tough and persist. I think that's the toughest part of during the time that when we were pivoting, because we were under a very high stress level. At least once, only we were like 3 to 4 months away from bankrupt. So pretty much burn all our cash, even though we have been cutting our salary many times. We were doing, I think all of our colleagues were once like getting 10 or 20K NTD. All my founding members, including myself, can barely survive ourselves. We so encourage our founding member to live with family, so to save costs. Then if not enough, to try to eat with your family. And then you can also save costs again. And then mental is the most difficult part, because a lot of social pressures for our founding members to whether to persist, continue. And so back then, your passions and belief about the things that you are doing, and also the belief of eventual outcome. then becomes super important. And I think who actually perceives and join us until now will be those who actually can make a real impact.
So we have another question. So right now, Appier, you didn't talk a whole lot about exactly all the details behind your company, but what does AI have to do with online advertising and business?
Yeah. So basically, you can think the decision making for AI is empowered in online advertising, online marketing, or business data using decision making of that. So you can imagine that in the past, in marketing, you try to think who my audience is. But nowadays, AI can be in real time to find out even, for example, inside our InnoVEX who can be your target customer and how they want to be interact with. And AI is very good at doing that real-time decision making, and then also push the right message and also represent the right material to the audience. That's just one example. And secondly, in the data utilizations, nowadays inside enterprise, there are a lot of data sitting there, but has not been utilized the most optimal way. But AI can come into the place that explore how to teach us how to the best exploit the data.
Another question. So recently, everyone's been talking a lot about AlphaGo, and especially within Asia. I know personally on my Facebook, everyone was talking about AlphaGo at that time, partly because Go itself is so popular in the region. But why do you think it was such a big deal? Like, why did everybody care so much about AlphaGo?
It's just a demonstration how, because you can think the problem solving, there's a different level. Usually the more complex problem that represent more freedoms and more higher dimensional and more variables into a decision making. For example, like chess is a lower dimensional problem than Go. Go is just a demonstration how complicated the machine can handle the one problem very well. And I think that's really what really excites in the industry and also AI research communities. But on the other hand, I think it's really, people always feel very exciting when a machine is trying to challenge a human being, especially a human being that's very good at what they do as a championship or so. But I would argue it's just not a fair competition because there are so many servers that are doing the computation and in real time and in offline. But while the world champions of Go, it has only a single brain doing the computation.
But it sounds like actually there's a lot of parallel with Little Dog, right?
Yeah.
Because maybe people are thinking we have this AI and we're using it to play games. And you have AI robotics and using it to build a little dog. So I guess it's good that the world is excited about this kind of stuff now.
Yeah.
So another question. So you've talked about you had to have that mental attitude in order just to survive. Your company now, about how many employees do you have?
We have more than 150.
More than 150. So you started out with 5 team members, and now you've grown that big. So during this time, through all this growth, how has your company culture changed, and how has your company itself changed now that you've got people in different countries? How have you managed to kind of build a global company but still kind of all keep on the same page?
I think it's all coming into our mindset. Well, our mindset hasn't been changed. We still interview everyone who joined our company, make sure the culture fits, make sure it's very clear that what they will encounter when join our company. We are actually overemphasizing on the culture and also the people who actually join us. We will actually tell them that what will be encounter even before they join the company, and let them make a decision whether they decide to join. Because if we overcautious in the beginning and after those talents on board, that will be much easier to engineer culture. So we sort of push the culture engineering in a very front line when we interview and also filter the talents, rather than backwards when people come then try to engineer the way they want. We just pick the one that more like we interview and also filter to the ones that really can fit with our culture to join our company. I think that's probably what we found the most efficient way to scale our culture.
And how about you? So probably in the very beginning, you were doing most of the coding, all of the engineering yourself, I guess. But these days, what is your day-to-day like? What is your work life?
Oh, I was quite fortunate that I think that there's one story about our first day in Appier, or what we previously called Plexi. So I'm a researcher in algorithm and also mathematics, and my partners, they're really good at coding. So four of us will start doing the coding, and until the other day, my partners start to say, okay, it's time for us to do code review. Once my partner look at my code, and he sort of pat my back and say, hey, ChihHan, now we are doing real company now. So are you sure you want to push that kind of quality of code? Since then, I'm pretty much a product manager. So I haven't coded a single line after my first day at Appier. But actually, I still do a lot of algorithm design and algorithm discussion and also product design part. And that's still the part that still hasn't changed from day one until now. And what was the second question?
Just what is your day-to-day life like right now? So now you've got this big multinational company. What do you do exactly?
What I do, I think most important thing for me is still product and also our service and operations. That's the things that we do. I focus mostly. And whenever I have to give a talk or somewhere, I feel anxious because I need to give away my time, my product discussion time to join the discussion and such. But I think that my daily priority is still our product, customer feedbacks, and also operations, and also focus on building the cultures. Yeah.
Because at Taiwan Startup Stadium, we work with a lot of different startups and in different stages. And I know a lot of the CEOs who are also engineers, once they get so big that they have to spend all their time on fundraising and business, they really miss working on the product directly and actually get kind of depressed because they don't get to do all of that. So how do you balance, how much time you get to devote to the product and how much you actually have to spend talking to investors and media and doing events like this?
I think talking to media and investors is actually a relatively very small part of my time, and I try to do it over a weekend also if possible. And during the weekdays times, I spend a lot of time doing products still. Working with the product team in different levels and try to think about what would be the next feature and product to do. I think that's a part I really enjoy, and I feel fortunate I can continue doing that, even though we have built a very strong team around it. Another thing is to try to be able to do that is to build a team that you can trust. A lot of the team that even they are outside Appier, we know they are working on the same vision and same goals. So they can run on their own instead of doing the sort of micromanage those teams. And that's also quite important to being able to focus on more important things.
We actually have a lot of questions here, but I'll pick a couple and then we'll get wrapped up. So here's a really good one. What are your thoughts on singularity?
I wouldn't think that will happen so fast as I previously described. I think given
will it happen at all?
Probably not in our lifetime. But I think in this human and AI process, even AI can demonstrate certain tasks it can solve to the extreme. But to the extent that human level intelligence that can control the whole process of creations, that still has a very long time to go. As I previously mentioned, AI is good at solving a single, very clear objective that you can give scores and good or bad, and how good, how bad, that kind of test. But eventually, the score and the process is still designed by human being. Right. So even a whole AlphaGo, it can solve such very complex problem, but it can't eat, right? AlphaGo program cannot eat, cannot even talk. So get to that level of intelligence still will take a very long time. Yeah.
And since we're in Taiwan, this is actually quite a good question. As far as hardware and powerful CPUs, how important is hardware in the future of AI?
I think it's super important. to us, like a lot of time, even AI is a type of software and also the area of research that we are almost obsessed about computation, that we are so greedy about computation. Like inside Appier, we also have a dedicated team just try to plan how we can utilize the computational power in an optimal way such that we can get the very best outcome. So it's a never-end game. So it's very good for the hardware industry in Taiwan. So basically, for example, deep learning, now we are able to build 20 layers of a deep neural net. Then after we get even more powerful computer, we want to build 200 layers. So basically, we'll go into the cycle early days when we have a very strong demand about graphics in games. That is driving the upgrades of CPU and all the hardware. And now is a sort of intelligent computation driving the spec upgrades of the hardware.
Okay, so again, related to Taiwan, how do you see, now that you have a lot more experience, but I mean, you're still a relatively young company,
yes.
but you have a bit of a senior kind of level of startup. How do you view other startups in Taiwan, and what do you see as advice that you might give to startups both in Taiwan and kind of throughout the region in Asia, how we can keep up with what's going on in Silicon Valley and throughout other ecosystems in the world?
I would say keep innovating. Innovation is still always the most important thing for any startup or any company. And also keep focused on solving the important questions. And because I only relatively know my own industry, I don't know each different industry. But so I cannot give very specific advice on different cases. But I think keep the innovations and also keep bringing the customer needs inside the innovation engine is always really important for any startup. And try to focus on the global level innovation.
Right. Yeah. Okay, and our last question, just a personal question for you. So we have all these innovations coming out related to AI, robotics, a lot of consumer products. What is the one thing that either hasn't been released to the public yet or has been released recently? Like what's the one product that you are most excited about that's powered by AI?
You asked me a very difficult question that I cannot answer. I'm always excited by Appier product. We have a couple of product in lines that we are launching very soon across the year. That usually excites me most because I think those are the ones like excite me most. That keep me really feel excited about working and keep our challenges in Appier.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you to ChihHan Yu from Appier, our CEO from Appier. It was really great talking with you. And of course, if you have any additional questions, you can still submit them through the QR code, but we won't be able to reply. But I'm sure you'll, if people get in touch with your company or through your company's Twitter, there's probably more opportunity to keep in touch.
Thank you so much, Holly.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Harrington and Mr. Yo, for giving us some insight of the artificial intelligence.